Today we're going to be looking at lab number 4, titled Investigating the Temperature of Air. Our essential question reads, how does the temperature of the Earth's surface affect the temperature of the air above it? So again, we're looking at how the uneven heating of the Earth and kind of looking at this as how it's going to impact wind and weather. Question number 1 states, how will you set up your equipment to make this a fair test, and what do we need to keep the same? So you'll notice I've got this, it's called a convection. This is the convection chamber down here. This is our convection tube. And so inside here, there is kind of like a thermometer that you might see inside of a fish tank. And the color that lights up green or yellow, that's the temperature that's reading. So we're going to start and notice that we want to make sure that when we're looking at our ice or our liquid that we're putting them in the same size containers, we're filling them to the same amount, that sort of thing. So go ahead and take a look at this and think about what are all the variables that we need to keep the same and write those down. And then of course, what's the variable that we're changing? In this case, we're going to be changing the temperature. Go ahead and make some predictions. Down there at the bottom, you'll see that it says you want to predict how do you think the temperature of a surface will affect the air temperature above it. And so what we're going to do is inside this chamber, this is going to represent the temperature of the surface, and the air above will be inside of our tube here. So we're going to start with our starting temperature. And so right now, our bottom starting temperature is 0. It's kind of hard to see in here, but it's recording at 22 degrees Celsius for the 0, 22 degrees Celsius. And 22 degrees Celsius is the bottom, and the top is also 22 degrees Celsius. So you can go ahead and write 22 degrees across the entire thing to represent what we're starting with for our hot and our cold. We're going to do our cold first, so we're going to place this inside of here, and I'm going to set our timer. And in 1 minute, we're going to take a look at our next temperature, and we'll be recording that for a top and a bottom. So again, we're looking at cold, so we've got cold in there, and after 1 minute we're going to record the top and bottom temperatures. 2 minutes we'll record a top and bottom temperature. 3 minutes we'll record a top and bottom temperature. And when we refer to top and bottom temperature, we're looking at our top measurement up here and our bottom measurement down here for our temperature. So again, looking at that little thermometer. So we're about 37 seconds in, so just kind of waiting. So our 1 minute temperature down here at the bottom, we're still recording at 22 degrees, and up here at the top, we're also still recording at 22 degrees. So at the 1 minute mark, you're going to go ahead and write 22 degrees. I'm not sure if you can see this, but there's our timer, so we're almost at 2 minutes. So getting ready to look at our 2 minute mark, I can see that our temperature does seem to be dropping. And so I can see that we're kind of in between that 21 and 22 degree temperature. So both of those are lighting up. The lower numbers are blue, and the upper numbers are kind of a yellowy color. And so I would go ahead and record that at 21.5 degrees. That's actually for both the lower and the upper. So again, 21.5 degrees for your 2 minute mark. And there we are at our 3-minute mark. And so I would say that we're also still at 21.5 degrees. 21.5 degrees. The next thing that we're going to do before we change is we're going to go ahead and we want to see how is our air movement. And so we've got a punk here, and we're going to be looking at smoke. So we want to light our punk, and we're going to get rid of the fire and just have smoke. So we can see that our punk is definitely smoking, and so what we want to do is we're going to try to force this smoke into our funnel here, and then we want to identify what happens in here. So I just kind of have to tuck this over. And you can record your information for this on the back side of your paper. So turn your paper over and write the word cold, and now just document what the smoke is doing. So as I'm sitting here, I'm trying to get the smoke to go inside the chamber, to run in the funnel through that tube and into the chamber, and it's just not doing anything. In fact, the smoke is just coming right out the funnel, so it doesn't seem to want to go in there. And that's exactly what should happen. So there's that. As we change over, we're going to go ahead and change from our cold setup to a hot setup. So we want to keep our variables from changing, and so I don't want to use one that's already been cooled down. So we're going to start with a new one, and inside of our new one, we're going to go ahead and just like before, we're going to place our heat. So we've already got our starting temperatures written down, which were the same as before. One of the things you're going to notice immediately as this starts happening is that we start getting some condensation in there. Oopsie. Starting to get some condensation already, and so it does make it a little bit harder to see our temperature reading. So we just kind of have to look a little bit more careful. So you can see how it's getting foggy. That's the condensation that we're referring to. So our hot water is most definitely heating up our chamber as well as our convection tube. So again, this is the convection chamber, this is the convection tube. So we're about 30 seconds in. And again, now we're going to be recording our information here under the hot side. So we have our 0 temperature, and that was 22 degrees. We're going to be recording the 1-minute temperature here in just a couple of seconds. So our 1-minute temperature for the upper is going to be, it looks like 25 degrees Celsius. And down here at the bottom, it's kind of, again, hard to see. It looks like it's 28. So the bottom is 28, the top is 25. So I'll go ahead and record that for the 1-minute mark. And we'll be looking to add our 2-minute mark here in just a moment. One thing I am noticing is that it's interesting that the closer we are, or the further away we are, the temperature definitely changes. So that's one of the things that you want to look at. We seem to be hotter near the source than away from the source. So our timer's going here still. Just kind of show you that so you can peek at that. Got about 15 seconds, and we'll be recording our next timing for the 2-minute mark. And our 2-minute mark measurements looks like on the top, it looks like I'm seeing about 26.5 degrees, 26.5, and on the bottom, I'm pretty clearly seeing 29. So again, your top is 26.5 and your bottom is 29. All right, our 3-minute measurement looks like up here, our top is 28 and our bottom down here is 32. So again, 28 for your top, 32 for your bottom. So you can see there is a clear difference in the temperature for closer to the source versus further away. Again, on the back side, you documented the flow of our smoke, which is representing the air. How does the air flow? If we didn't have the smoke, we wouldn't be able to see it. And so we're going to go ahead and we're going to put this in here, again, trying to trap the smoke by kind of tilting it sideways. I might have to pull it to the side of the counter here. And what I am seeing, hopefully you're seeing it too, is before we had all the smoke and it was all just pouring out of our funnel. So there is definitely some that's coming out of the funnel, but not nearly as much. As a matter of fact, if I look up here, hopefully you can see the top of that, the smoke is actually pouring out the top of this. So that shows you that our airflow is pulling in down here and it rises, because we do know that hot air rises. The last thing that you need to do is on the back, after you've identified the flow of our smoke, which represents the flow of air, is you do need to try to explain that. Explain why the cold air or the cold air representing for the smoke just went in and it came right out, whereas the warm, it went up and up the convection tube. When you're done, make sure you attach this into your science notebook.